Hello viewers, welcome to Vault of Wisdom episode 5. I'm with Pastor Sebina Kagwa, and last episode we stopped on your story going to the salvation journey, and that was early 80s, 81, 1981. There is something you said in one of our conversations before we started this series. You said on that day you were actually smoking. There is something. Yes, a bang of marijuana. Yeah. And you had a moment of frustration where, yes, I want us to go through that story because it's important to everything we are going to discuss, we are going to converse about going forward. That story linking your mother, my grandmother, you said there was an accident she had on the eye, and then you were smoking something and you got frustrated by religion. That is where I would like us to pick up. And so a story yavaawa eya jjajja okuba okuyingira mu story ya salvation.
I had just begun understanding that there is a God. As I narrated maybe in these, the previous episodes, about my journey to commitment to Christianity, to Christ in particular. Began way back when I was still practicing taekwondo, martial arts, in a patch land in the forest.
Forest.
Not a forest, but a bush.
A bush.
Kind of setting. There was a clearing, and we'll go there frequently every evening
To smoke.
band, and also practice martial arts. We were training from there, not as gorillas, but just as young boys interested in martial arts. And one of us was way up in the radars of martial arts. He was a black belt. So we trained together initially, but when I stopped, he continued and I went to music. When I came back from Arua, I found that he was far advanced, so he started training us, and we would meet there every evening. So being in one spot for 2 years, it caused me to realize the moon phases and admire creation. And definitely we would do practice, and then at around 7 something, we'd sit down for a shot of marijuana. And you sit very relaxed. Then I began to realize that the moon would come out as a full moon certain evenings. Then I realized it is periodical. You can time it. Then I began to realize that the moon will be late 50 minutes every day to be at the same spot.
52 minutes every day. 50 minutes.
50 minutes. I began timing that.
To be on the same spot it was the
Yes,
day before.
the day before. So because I would wait for it to be full moon again, and you realize that it's going past the usual day. Then eventually I began to calculate that it comes late at the very spot because when you are sitting in the same spot for almost a year, every evening, you kind of get adjusted to the settings, natural settings, so you can know things. So I was captivated by nature, and as I was gazing at nature and its precision kind of movement, I realized there is a God who is wiser and above religions, and the religions were nowhere close to explaining him and explaining. So I wouldn't say I was frustrated with religion, but I compared their communication, the religious communication. It was no way to match the wisdom of God in creation.
When you say religious education,
that is the nominal, the common denominations. Anglicanism is just about telling you about God and dying and going to heaven. It's like they are preparing you for heaven. There's nothing contributed
here on earth.
And then I reflected on some of the habits of my friends who were co-religious people. Every Sundays, they would not, whenever I'm going for movies, they would not go to see any movie in the cinema before they went to church. So I counted them to be religious. But on the contrary, when we went and enjoyed the movies and afterwards, we did all the other things people do. Then I said, this is emptiness. Why the fuss? So I was fascinated by nature, the way it communicated silently the wisdom of God, the calculation of the moon phrases and the other things. I just began from there. I remember I wanted aviation, and I was keen also on astronomy. And the interest peaked. Then the realization that there is a God, a real God, beyond religions.
Beyond what religions we are teaching.
Can communicate.
Yes.
Sank in my heart. And then I remember taking my joint, and I talked to him. Seriously, but casually, that God, now I know you are there. But none of the religions of this world really communicate your truth. Show me the right way, the true way.
Kyogere mu Luganda nga yowali.
Mugamba nti Mukama ntegedde Katonda gy'oli. Amadiini gonna tegakukiikiridde. Naye ndaga ekkubo ery'amazima. I can even remember them now. Almost word for word.
Those are 40 years.
Beyond 40 years, because it took me another 2.5 years or 3 years to come to the point of commitment to Christ. So in between, I interfaced with God on many settings. One of them was when my mother was struck by a stab of maize. When the maize has been harvested, they cut off the top, and part of the stalk raised to the ground. Now, as she was cultivating,
the sharp point.
As she was cultivating land for preparing it for new planting, she hit the bottom of the stalk, and it swung. It peeled off the lining of the eye, starting from one end across the pupil, so you could not see the blackness of the pupil. It became grayish, and you could see the thin skin that had been peeled off hanging in the eye. And it was so painful. She went to those days in Amin's time when he was about to be overthrown.
Late 70s.
Nowhere we could take her for such medical attention. Now she had to go for first aid, and she went to a nearby clinic whereby the doctor looked at her and said, you have been hit terribly. I don't know what to do, but just try this. So we don't know what he actually gave her. And she came back, and I went to her bedroom to inquire what the report is. And I found her breathing herself in absolute pain. And that hurt me so much. To see my mother, my strong aunt, breathing within pain. Yes. And I knew this eye needed specialized attention. So, and there was no way I could get that. So I remember going back to my room and kneeling on my bedside and praying to God. God, my mother is in terrible pain. I don't have money, and we don't have money to take her to Nairobi. This kind of specialized attention. I ask you to help and heal my mother. I was not born again. I did not know much about healing, but now I knew.
Were you going to church?
I did not go to church. I had decided to become a pagan or an atheist in that form, not rather than following religion.
Rather than follow religion, you have chosen to
plain, so that I'm open for him to come without. I was born from an Anglican situation, background, but none of that really was hanging around me, apart from the knowledge I was getting. I remember praying for the first time. Now, this would be the second time. The first time, I was asking God to show me the truth. I felt a certain kind of peace descending on my life.
After
that.
The prayer.
Now, when I prayed for my mother, the same kind of peace descended on me. And I forgot everything. Now, after I don't know how many weeks, I remember asking my mother, how about the eye? and she could not tell which one.
Hey.
Anyway, it was cured.
Mm.
We don't remember any episode beyond the day she was hit. It just happened where the day I reflected, I wanted to know what really happened. The eye was
And she couldn't remember which
now,
eye it was.
After some time, I even asked her which one actually was it. And she could not tell which one. Because both were seeing alike. And we don't know what's really happening. Now for me, that was another point God answered my prayer. That is the part where my mother comes in. Now, I also came across other books and writers. She also wants pamphlets about salvation. They enriched my understanding. He talked about the miracles of God in his crusades. And I could see the simple message was communicated. And I kept on reading the Bible storybooks like I told you. I was one of God's wisdom. He availed me with 10 volumes of Bible stories from Genesis to Revelation. And they were colorful, full of paintings. And being a painter, I was always fascinated. Reading the stories. Now, if somebody happens to read the stories of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, like in a span of something like 6 months, they get a picture of what God really presents, regardless of the religion.
Yes.
You cannot read the Bible through from Genesis to Revelation
and not understand.
Be captivated by something. The same thing happened to a certain Christian. His pastor now is called Derek Prince. He was in the army, and because he thought he was going to be redundant in listening in the army, he chose to buy a Bible and read the Bible from cover to cover. As a philosopher, he wanted to know what is in the Bible. But before he could finish the Bible, he was crying and repenting to God. So I'm sure now you cannot read if your intention is open. You are not reading from a religious perspective, but open.
Openness to understanding.
You just want to know what is written there. Then you allow God to speak to you without interruption. And what you get is God, not you. So by early 1980s, I was convinced. And 81, I was very convinced the only way was to commit my life. But I was stuck with this drug addiction. I could not throw it out from me. I tried several times to go without it. I could not even go to sleep. I lost my appetite because this thing is a stimulant to appetite. It's a stimulant to imagination. Whenever I took a certain dose, when I was going to compose art pieces or music,
you were at your best.
There is something in that drug that causes focus and concentration.
Focus.
Oh, yes.
Hey.
The bad part is that
The addiction.
And with addiction, you can't control.
You can't get off.
And I can't say, I'm not saying this promotes its usage, but I think the scientists can find out what is that element in it that causes focus.
They already know. That's why there is even the medicinal bit of it. Yes, there are good things in it, but like you've said, the addiction bit. Yes.
You can't control. But like God says, whatever He created was good. I don't see how we can fail to get goodness from
Out of it. Yes.
We are so that was it. I struggled
With the addiction.
with the addiction, and I got married within the year 1981.
Hey.
I was so afraid for my wife to discover that I was on drugs, and I wanted to be high every night.
You are married by you are still on drugs at that time.
When I got married, I married young man.
Hey, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you were young, and I was on drugs. So
you first take that.
okay. Yes. I got married at a young age when I was 23 to a young girl who was about coming 18. And I was afraid she'll get to know of my drug addiction. because you are shameful. In the community, socially, you are considered to be if you take such stuff. Now, this was a woman on my side, day in, day out. How can I hide? So I resorted to buying booze, corn beers. We will drink every evening, but as we get high, I will go to the toilet and take my joy. Now, she could not tell.
Whether it was the alcohol or...
She thought it was like alcohol. But
Mwakunywanga mwembi.
So, but one day, she kind of noticed I was smelling like grass. And she kind of hinted on it. And I knew she was getting closer to find it out. And I was more embarrassed to let myself known by that. So, the urge to commit my life to Christ, which I had, I had known, been convicted in my heart and convinced that I need to turn to God. So the drive to turn to God and give my weakness over to Him to heal me of that grew stronger. And then also my interfacing with the gospel preachers also intensified. I began to meet them on frequent levels. Whenever I went to Kampala, I would find a preacher who was called Joseph Makairo, and his family. They used to preach in the taxi park. So every time before I boarded the taxi, I would get leaflets from them and then go back and read and get more convinced about God's reality. Now, the problem was when to decide to change my life. It became a little bit like people jumping off the lines on parachutes. You know, the first one has been very courageous. The other one picked courage from the first one. So I was with my brother, late brother Fred Karugu. We are totally convinced, but who goes first? Now one day, about 2 weeks before my conversion, he came back and said, I have decided, I've given my life to Christ. I won't tell you his story, but during those outreaches, the people who were giving out leaflets followed on him and asked him 4 questions. Are you a Christian or not? And then the ensuing episode is that he was convinced to give his life to Christ. So he came back home very excited and said, I've done it. Now I knew it could be done. And I told him, you go to their church and find out where they assemble from and come back and tell me. So he went that Sunday and he came back and told me. Then I resolved, next Sunday, that was going to be November 1st, I'm going to commit my life to Christ. So everything that happened that was just a preparation for me to do it. I was resolved it was going to be on a Sunday. You know, that's the only way we knew. We go to church
and you get...
I don't know what happened. So, on the eve, that was October
31st.
I gathered every single piece of joint where I had thrown it, and I made one big stick like this. I went to the toilets, I bought the booze, we drank, and I smoked it. And I knew this is supposed to be my last. Tomorrow I'm going to commit my life to Christ. And the morning comes, we go with my wife. I don't remember what was being preached, but I was overexcited. Now, finally, I've made it.
You've made it to church.
I've made a decision to go and give my life to Christ. Now, it all lay in the hands of the minister to conduct me well. And we didn't know what was going on. I was just another member, another person was just appeared in the congregation. So, and he preached and he preached and preached. But he came and he made a stunning statement. The devil's most notorious prison is ignorance. Get out of it. And I shouted, I am out. That's how I am out. Live with them. And I think, on reflection, everyone in the congregation must have looked back and noticed what was happening. I was all gleaming. My face was, I remember the photographs were destroyed, but I remember the photographs of me kneeling down. Somebody took photographs of us as we were kneeling down. My face was gleaming with a beautiful, liveless smile, and a sense of guilt. But somebody who has been found guilty, but at the same time forgiven. You know, the expressions, part they want to cry, part they want to laugh, but they cannot laugh, but there was a smile on me, which portrayed a lot of things that were being done. I don't know which words they gave us to recite as we respond to press, but I don't recall anything of that. One thing I knew, when I said I am out, that was it.
You were out.
In my life, I knew what I was doing. I was going back to God, and I was going there through Christ. At least those things I did. The other things I did. So the prayers we said, I don't remember anything. I remember kneeling down, saying something. Maybe they gave us word, but I was speaking my own. After that, when I stood up, I told the pastor that I've come here and I've come to serve God like Elijah. No, because in the Bible stories, I was impressed by Elijah, who took his stand in his generation to stand for God against all the weakness around. And he used to claim, I'm the only one. So I said, I want to serve God like Elijah. There was a guitar. I noticed there was a guitar in the church, and I told the pastor, I know how to play the guitar. If you want me to play the guitar, I will play. He said, it's okay. And then I don't even remember the other stuff. The other thing I remember vividly, the church was in a story building, Wilson Road, in Kampala. And as we were descending down the steps, I remember telling my wife, now even if we die now, it's okay with me. Because I knew there was a peace that I cannot explain, the joy that I cannot explain, that was within me, on being sure that I've crossed over. I've surrendered my life to Christ. And this time I knew I was not joking. I was not trying.
Had you tried before?
Yes. I met some preachers, somewhere way back when I was still in secondary. I was going to school for an art lesson in the evening, afternoon. And I came across these young men, fire preachers. And they were preaching, street preachers. And they encircled me, they bombarded me with the gospel, and now they pestered me to make a decision there and there. And I thought, the idea of God is not bad. But to get them off my back, I repeated their prayer.
And they let you go.
And I went with that sanctimonious kind of feeling. I've come close to God. But when I went in the art room, there was a lot of cursing. And I was laughing to the cursing, and I knew I had lost myself. So, at this time around, I knew it was for don't laugh.
Jose, we are going to stop here for today. This is just part one. I know this story is still going, so we are going to pick up from here next time. But thank you so much for the memories. There are some things I knew about, but others have kind of shocked me because I didn't know about them. And this is the beauty of this program. We are getting to hear from you where you're coming from, and then we are going to get into those things I want us to get into. One of them you've briefly talked about today, religion. I would like us to know, I would like you to tell us what religion actually is and whether it is something of God or not. So that is where we are going in the future. But right now, we are still understanding the person you are and how you became the person you are right now. So thank you so much for today. And viewers, see you next week.